So some really exciting stuff is going on in Richardson politics right now, and it's funny because I feel completely discouraged and disillusioned while at the same time kind of excited and inspired by what I'm seeing. And I'll tell you why. I have been paying attention to this for probably a good 4 years now, blogging and kind of following city council and stuff. Never before has there been a lot of interest in what's going on with this group called the Richardson Coalition. I mean, they've kind of been up in Canyon Creek and Prairie Creek, that's where their base is, and anybody else who ever really talked about them, it was more, that we had like these conspiracy theories or something. Now, 4 years ago is when they came out with their first voter's guide. Before that, they've been around for about 5.5 years officially, kind of organized and became an official PAC and started collecting money and stuff like that. Came out with the first voter's guide in 2009. A lot of the candidates didn't even know that they were going to be endorsed on it. It was so juvenile. Okay, so like the candidates they endorsed got smiley faces, and the ones that they were against got frowny faces. The thing that got a lot of us, though, that made it almost like the tabloid of voters' guides, is that it did not have anything to do with people's professional or political careers. A lot of times it was like these bizarre personal attacks that kind of made no sense and were out to destroy people's character, but in bizarre ways. So 2009 that comes out, and like I said, a lot of the candidates were new, didn't even realize that this was going to be happening. By 2011, everybody was kind of waiting around for the voters' guide to see if they were going to do that again, or maybe they'd finally figured out how to be adults and they weren't going to do something so stupid. Lo and behold, same thing happened. They gave frowny faces. The one really interesting thing, if you look back, and I'll try to post a link somewhere because I actually have a copy of it on Conserve and Protect, is that they did not necessarily go after Diana Clausen. And I talked to Amir Omar, and he said that he actually specifically went to them and said, do not attack her, because he wanted to run on his own merits. I think that really shows a lot of character right there. And he's always done that. He's never run a negative campaign. He's always said that he is running for an office. He's not running against anybody. So even when his opponents have been, mudslinging, he's never stooped to that level. I think that's really cool. So let's see, probably around 4 years, or maybe it was 3 years ago, I think, they started coming out with Real Heroes, which at the time was laughable. Like, everybody who was paying attention saw that this was nothing more than a ploy to get email addresses. The way that you would nominate someone for a Real Hero award was you would give them all your contact information, then you could get this nomination. Well, obviously, it was just growing their email list and their base of people that they were able to kind of indoctrinate with these emails. I can honestly say in the last 2 years, I've probably gotten as many emails from them. One each year, each time about the Real Heroes awards, nominations, whatever. Aside from that, it's very quiet. It's not a very active group until the election cycle. And in the last 2 weeks, I've gotten at least half a dozen emails from them promoting their candidate. Okay, so last week, the voter's guide comes out and goes to seniors. Now, the thing that I think just took it to an all-new low was they did send it to seniors first this time. They twisted a lot of the facts and the data, and it was really misleading. And the thing that pisses me off is, as a community, we're always kind of supposed to be watching out for our seniors, right? Because they're the most susceptible to being manipulated by con artists. And then here we have this group that's supposed to be a respectable political action committee, or so a lot of people still believe. And they just outright were misleading senior citizens and trying to scare them and manipulate them into voting for their candidate. That just sucks. That sucks. I'm sorry. Like, the fact that they would go after a more vulnerable, sector in our society, like, I think says a lot about who this group is and kind of backs up everyone else's inclination over the past 4 years that they're not a good group of people. Now, you will have people who are affiliated with Richardson Coalition who are upstanding citizens. Bob Macy, I love to death. I think he's great. Gary Slagle, I'm even starting to get along with pretty well. Like, there are people who are not necessarily corrupt and evil. However, anytime we have a small group of people with a lot of money who are calling all the shots for the city, we need to start paying attention to what exactly they're doing. And I get that maybe it looks like they're doing a lot of good stuff, but the fact that every 2 years they come out with the worst smear campaigns I have ever seen against candidates, that it's not even just looking bad for the residents. Like, it's making us ashamed of this city. It is literally attacking the character of these candidates. And I will say, this is the thing that really stuck out to me and disturbed me the most. None of the information that they published about Amir Omar is new. This is stuff that they have been privy to for the last 4 years and never felt that threatened by before. Never felt like he was not fiscally conservative enough for the city before. In fact, they endorsed him on those points. So now all of a sudden they're having an issue and they feel like he's a threat and he's this big scary deadbeat dad or something. They took a little bit of information that was very confusing for people to understand. They misinterpreted it and put it out there on the internet so that it looked like they were credible, and these arguments against him were not just libel, but you know what? That's all they are. I'm sorry, but they all had easy explanations, which Amir has given them in the past. They completely understand the $10,000 child support settlement. That wasn't just child support, and it wasn't back child support. It was medical bills and basically a settlement that he came to through his divorce agreement, which I'm sorry, but is none of our business. The amount of time that we're spending talking about that is time that we are not talking about why half the streets in my freaking neighborhood look like Haiti. Like, let's talk about things that actually affect citizens, and not the fact that when he was 20 something years old, he had a business and which had 30 employees, and he ended up having to file for bankruptcy because one of the businesses went under and it left him in a pile of debt. Not to get out of student loans or whatever else they're trying to make it seem like. I mean, these are slanderous things that they're saying, and they're not true. And the thing that's the most upsetting is that they know they're not true, that this group of people have been aware of it the entire time and didn't feel like you, the residents, needed to know it this whole time. But yet now, because he is their opponent, they're going to air all of his, I mean, if you want to consider it dirty laundry. Makes you really wonder what other secrets they're keeping for the rest of the city council, that they are endorsing. And it also makes me think that they probably want city council to endorse that have some skeletons in their closet that they can use as leverage whenever they want to sway them to vote a certain way. That is what we're seeing happen with this group called the Richardson Coalition. When you're on their good side, you're good, and you're going to get an endorsement, and you're going to get a council seat. They have run people who absolutely should not have won, who have been up against much better candidates. Yet, time and again, they win because of that voter's guide and because of this base of voters that they have in Canyon Creek and Prairie Creek that have this loyalty to them that I personally will never understand. We need to start paying attention. We need to wake up as residents. And so that's what I'm saying. I'm completely disillusioned. At the same time, I'm very encouraged because I am seeing more people who are actually paying attention and realizing, like, something's not right. When Chuck Eisman, and this group of very wealthy residents can run the whole city, like, we need to be paying attention to what's actually behind that. Laura's definitely tied into that group these days, and the sad thing is that I actually met with John Murphy a few weeks ago and got really encouraged about her campaign. Came away from it with the fact that, like, Richardson can't lose. We've got two great candidates. Whoever ends up being mayor, like, we will benefit as a city. And I sent her an email saying that, letting her know I'm still a loyal Amir supporter, but that I am excited for what she has to offer the city because ultimately I do know that if you have the stamp of approval from the coalition, odds are you are going to be elected. The number one thing that John Murphy said to me that got to me was that he has never seen this happen before, but Chuck turns to her for advice on decisions they're making, and he defers to her and what she thinks is best. And I thought that was really encouraging that for once our city council people actually had the power to make choices. That, to me, is what should have been happening all along. But it hasn't. They have been looking to Chuck or Bill Kefler or whoever was in power at the time and asking them what they should do. Like, what city runs like that? That's crazy. So I felt like this was an awesome move in the right direction to find out that she was actually calling a lot of the shots and the coalition was following her. Not 2 days after I send this email to her does the senior voters guide come out. And as much as I want to blame the coalition for it, I just proved to myself, and, John Murphy basically explained that it's all on her. She's the one making these calls. It's not just the fact that they have the same firm who's running her campaign and the coalition's PAC. She knew darn good and well what was going to be in there. She knew these documents. She has now come out. I thought she was going to come out against them. Not only did she not, she's come out and she's endorsing it and publicizing links to the website, which have these personal documents that, as I said, I don't think are any of our freaking business. With Amir Omar's 6-year-old son's full name listed on there. They didn't even have the decency to, block any of this stuff out. It just... Is this really what we've stooped to? Is this what we're at? Is this benefiting the city? Is this benefiting the residents? No, it's an embarrassment, and we should all be ashamed. And, Laura might be a good person. I do like her as a person, but you are known by the company you keep, and if you hang out in a pit of snakes, I don't know. It says something about your character.